Hey y'all. So our friend Dr. Fauci is in the news again, and uh, I wanted to bring up a book that I'm reading right now by Celia Farber called "Adverse Events," certain adverse events, and it's about Fauci Part One, which was his handling of the AIDS the AIDS thing, the HIV AIDS matter, and specifically the book. And by the way, I'd highly recommend the book. I'll try to remember to post a link to it below. I recommend what I've read of it so far. So here is how Dr. Fauci handled HIV/AIDS back in the 1980s. Now he wasn't the only one. There were others who were part of the medical establishment who were also complicit. But here's something in particular that he did, holding the position of power that he did within the federal government, within the medical establishment. There was this drug called AZT, and it initially was a source of hope for some people, and they thought this is a drug that's going to help people with AIDS or people who are ill, whether AIDS is caused by HIV or not, which is a different question that's also addressed in the book. But that's not one I feel as entitled to talk about here. It's certainly worth debating, but it's something I don't really know enough about, or I don't have enough information about to offer an opinion one way or the other. Nevertheless, um, there was this at the time this hope for people who were sick uh, with this drug called AZT. Now, AZT had been around for a while. It had actually surfaced years before, and they tried to use it as a chemo drug, but it was just too toxic, and it had to be taken off the market, because it was like what people who endure chemotherapy have to go through. It was that times 10 or something like that. I mean, it was it was just shredding people's insides, and but they thought, okay, well, we've got this situation with this new virus, and AZT looks like it might help. Um, and the first clinical trials supposedly showed, where they had certain people taking AZT and other people taking placebos, people who were very ill, that it seemed to show that AZT was possibly helping the ones who took it, and that they were uh, uh, less likely to get worse and less likely to die than the ones who were just taking a placebo. But as the author discusses in the book, this initial study uh, was racked with problems. It was not truly double blind, and all other kinds of things. It did not really suit the criteria of, you know, what what was generally agreed upon as a scientific study. But there was this real urgency to get the drug out there. And I mean, does any of this sound familiar? It's just, you think if you think AZT and COVID vaccine, or the Baj. Oh, I guess I should still go calling it the Baj, like my secret language for it. But anyway, they rushed it out there because they they wanted there to be something available for people who were very ill with this new disease that was apparently, they thought at the time, and they told everybody at the time, was 100% deadly. We know now that that's not the case. Magic Johnson and many others being testimonies to that. But anyway, so they put the drug out on the market, but initially it was supposed to be, okay, this is a drug that only should be used for people who are really sick, not just people who have been found to be HIV positive, but who aren't showing any symptoms, who are basically fine. But effectually, that was not how it got used. Effectually, it was something that they used on that doctors started prescribing for anyone who is HIV positive. And Fauci himself, even though he had access to all of the all of the drug trials information, and more information came out, and the more information that came out, the clearer it was that AZT was not helping at all. That in fact it was a deadly drug that might have been killing people faster than they would have died anyway, because again it is just this highly toxic substance. So Fauci, who had to have had access to everything, to all of the trials that had been conducted beyond the initial trial, which was bogus because it wasn't double blind, and all other kinds of problems with it. But as more and more information emerged, it was clear. It became clear that AZT was definitely not something. In any case, it was, although, you could make a case for it being made available to those who were deathly ill because, they needed whatever you could give them. So you might as well try it with them. But for people who are not that sick, or people who are not sick at all, but just had been diagnosed as being HIV positive, Fauci said they should get it. He said doctors should start prescribing this to. At first, he said anyone who's HIV positive and who has a T cell count or T level count lower than X. I can't remember what the exact number was. And he also said, and people also who are just HIV positive, whose T level is above X level, should also look into this wonder drug. All right, so what I'm saying is, he knew he was culpable because this drug wreaked havoc on people. It did terrible things to people. It killed people. I think it's safe to say. They started giving it to people who are relatively healthy, and then they started, feeling really sick and throwing up all the time, and needing blood transfusions and so forth, because this drug was so harming them. Now Fauci knew. He knew. There's no question but that he knew. Nevertheless, he still said, prescribe this drug. He still told doctors, you need to prescribe this drug to people who are HIV positive, whether they're sick, whether they're deathly ill or not. All right, this is back in 1980, 86, 87, 88, 89. That along those, sometime, during that time period. In other words, over 30 years ago, over 35 years ago. So this man was guilty of severe malpractice over 35 years ago. And if there were justice in this country, and if the powerful were actually called to account for their crimes, he would have been at the very least disbarred and and fired, and sued, and at most maybe they could have made a case that he should be in jail, because again, let's stick to the simple point. The trials showed that AZT was having a detrimental effect on the people that it was being given to, and that it and yet and while like I said, a case could be made that for the very, very, very sick, those are already on death's door, that maybe give them AZT and maybe that'll help them out a little bit, because you might as well try it in a circumstance like that. But for people who are basically fine, or who weren't that sick, he knew that it was not that he knew the truth about what AZT was doing to people, and he kept prescribing it. He kept recommending that it be prescribed. Why? One can speculate, but there's a cozy relationship between the pharmaceutical companies and the medical establishment, isn't there? Isn't that something that's often been remarked? And there are people making a lot of money off of AZT, and Fauci himself was probably making some dough off of it. All right, so anyway, my main point, without even bringing in 2020 and the whole mess with that all the nonsense of 2020 and 2021, he should have been out, in the 80s. People should have said, I mean, I'm sure some people did say things, but he was too well established. He had too much power, and they weren't able to force him out. But he should have been forced. He should have been removed. He should have been booted from medicine, and from the certainly from the medical establishment that runs the federal government. He should have been persona non grata in 1989. But he went on being this powerful figure, and he eventually went on to wreak his havoc all over again with a brand new crisis that he took advantage of to push for the taking of a substance that proved not to be beneficial. All right. You don't have to like what I'm saying, but I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong. That's all. Thanks for watching.